This is your Professional Skills S1 briefing. I am Julia Clark. Just so that you are aware, this briefing is being used for semester A and B students, and in light of that, the dates are going to be incorrect in this briefing, so I'm not going to mention any dates. Please make a concerted effort to go and check the dates that you need to be submitting these assignments so that you don't get any of that wrong, because there are a couple of deadlines you're going to need to hit. Alright, so the first thing about this assignment is that it starts off with your 80 hours of experiential learning. You need to do this first before you can cover anything else. The most important thing here is to be able to connect these 80 hours of experiential learning with all of the topics that you've covered in Professional Skills 2. And by topics, we mean basically the chapters of your textbook. So things like negotiation, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, managing change, etc. These are all topics that we have covered during Professional Skills. So you have to learn how to connect the two. So your experiential learning and the topics covered in Professional Skills. How can you put all of these topics to use whilst at work? So the steps in this process are to obviously study the brief, make sure that you've organized a host for your 80 hours of learning experience, and think about how this assessment and, again, your learning experience are going to join in the middle. Then you need to detach and complete your experiential learning host employer confirmation. It's at the back of this, and you're going to need to submit this to Jeanette Campbell before the date stipulated on your brief. We need this because we need to communicate with your host before you go and start your work there. Then take note of your host employer evaluation. You have to detach this and hand it over to who's ever in charge of you at your company and ask them to complete it for you and then give it back to you at the end of the experiential learning. You have to have this to complete section A of the assessment, and on top of that you need to attach this to your assessment so that we know exactly where your host stood. Next is you complete your 80 hours of experiential learning. You complete this assessment, you submit the assessment, and you're going to upload your speech. You're going to prepare your speech, and then instead of giving your speech, you're going to actually upload it to YouTube. So obviously you need to include this URL for YouTube in your references or at any point in your assignment. Okay, so section A, reflection on the process. You're going to need to write a professional blog post that reflects on your experiential learning process. So a professional blog is, we've all read blogs a lot of times in our lives. And this blog, what it's going to contain is that you are going to choose 2 of the professional skills topics covered in class. You're going to think of 2 situations during your experiential learning when you applied or observed these skills being used. So in other words, you're going to think of 1 situation and 1 professional skills topic that goes together and explain how you used this skill or how you maybe didn't use it as well as what you should have. In the same way that when in the F1 you looked at your self-awareness and how you either did apply it well or not, you're going to do the same thing here with another professional skills topic. And you're going to do this for 2 separate situations. So you need to recall and reflect on 2 situations as well as 2 different skills that were utilized during these situations. Then you're going to write a professional blog that covers these situations that occurred at your host company, and you can use the following headlines. So you can structure this like a blog. Do a little bit of reading, see how blogs are structured, but I'm sure that you have all read blogs in your time, and use all of these headings to structure your answer. So the professional skills used, you can give us the professional skill as well as a definition of the professional skill from your textbook. The personal involvement, so explain the situation to us in full, exactly how you did in your F1 with the situation for your self-awareness. Then explain the challenges that were involved. What did you find difficult about that situation? What did you not do incredibly well? And then on top of those challenges, develop the new learning. So what did you learn from this situation, and how are you going to go about handling those kinds of situations differently in the future? And then include the action that you took. So in explaining that situation. And yeah, look at the assessment criteria carefully at the end of this assessment in that reflective report, because that will also guide your answers. And you're obviously not submitting this as a hard copy, you're submitting it online. All right, now, next you're looking at your host employer evaluation. And from this, you're going to look at the scores that your host gave you, and you're going to draft an action plan of how to address any areas of weakness or areas that were noted for growth or development by your host. If by whatever chance your host gives you a glowing review, gives you all full marks for everything, you're going to need to see what area you think that you need to improve upon that your host maybe didn't pick up on. So you're going to draft your action plan. You're going to structure it like this. So in what areas do I most need to improve? I'd say you should state 2 or 3. 2, what will be my payoff? So what is the value of improving upon these areas? What potential obstacles stand in my way? Now remember, obstacles are things that are external to you. They are things that are part of the environment. They are not things that are internal to you. If they are internal to you, they're weaknesses. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about how you can improve upon your weaknesses. But what obstacles stand in your way of improving on those weaknesses? And then what are the things I'll do to improve on this area of weakness? When will you do them? And how and when will I measure my success? So remember, for every area that you state here, you need to have an accompanying answer for every single one. So if you state 3 answers, you need to make sure that you have 3 whys, 3 potential obstacles, 3 specific things that you will do to improve this area of weakness. And then you need to have a reflective speech. You need to write a reflective speech. So this will be uploaded to YouTube only. No other platforms will be accepted. So you'll be required to give a 3-minute reflective speech on your experiential learning, uploaded to YouTube. It needs to demonstrate reflection and insight into the professional skills topics in relation to your experience in the world of work. You can cover aspects such as the following. Obviously, you can cover other aspects as well, but these are good answers to flesh out your answer. How your experiential learning influenced your thinking about your career. Has anything changed because of this experiential learning in terms of where you think your career is going? What was the highlight of your experiential learning process? Were there any aspects that caused you a lot of anxiety? Were there any surprising aspects? What were the most important things you took away from the experiential learning process? What you expected and how the reality compared? What you enjoyed or disliked the most? And the best piece of advice you received from a mentor. Now, very important here, this mustn't be a narrative. So you mustn't say, on the first day I arrived and I did this, then I did that. It needs to be a reflection of your overall experience. Of course, you can introduce us, say, hi, my name is Julia, and the experiential learning that I did was at a company called Boston Media House, and give us a little bit of information about the company. But I want to hear reflection. I want to hear that you were able to analyze yourself. You were able to display self-awareness. Maybe you didn't behave perfectly in every situation, but what did you learn from this? Because that's the most important thing. What did you learn? And then you've got your additional marks here. At the back, you're going to have all of your mark breakdown, which you can go through quite closely. And then you'll have all of your addendums too, with your host employer evaluation. You can email this to them, no problem. And the host employer confirmation form, which you can email back to Jeanette as well. And then just a little appendix on how to cite references correctly. this assessment does still have the plagiarism penalty, so please make sure that you avoid that at all costs. Good luck, and if you have any questions, please get in touch.